We will call the meeting to order. Thank you all for being here tonight. We will now have the invocation from Pastor Brent Spry of New Beginnings Baptist Church.
All right, thank you for allowing me to be here tonight. And the definition of an invocation is asking someone for help. So let's go into the presence of our Heavenly Father and ask Him for some help. Our Father, who's very near unto us, God, we just come before you tonight. And Father, we first of all just want to give you thanks. We thank you for making yourself available to us to be able to seek you for wisdom. And Father, I thank you for this county. I've been born and raised in this county, and I thank you for Davie County. I pray, Lord, for the leadership of this county. Lord, I pray you give the men and women wisdom, give them direction. Father, give them boldness also in times when they have to make hard decisions. I pray, Lord, that you just give them clarity, give them unity. And Lord, there's a lot of moving parts in this county. We do pray for your blessing upon our schools. We ask you to keep those schools safe. We ask you, Lord, to bless our law enforcement. We ask you to keep them safe as they are out trying to patrol and keep us safe. We do pray, Lord, for our firefighters and first responders. We ask your blessing upon them and as they put their life in line in time to try to save us. And so, Lord, we just thank you for all those parts. We ask you, God, to bless your churches in this county as we try to be light and salt and try to help reach people whose lives are struggling, and so that they might be able to have a better life. And Lord, if we could reach them, the law never would have to. And so we just lift these things up to you, God, and we pray for just your blessing upon this county, Lord. We pray for prosperity. We pray for continued growth. And Lord, we just pray that you would help this county to just love one another. And Lord, that we would always be willing to help one another. And we ask you to bless this county, to give us a good, clean county, a healthy county. And so, Lord, we just thank you for everything. Bless this meeting tonight. And may we all be a blessing to you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Pastor. Doing our invocation tonight is George Philip Crew. We like to say a word or two about our veterans that do the pledge for us. Mr. Crew went to Marine Corps boot camp at sunny Parris Island, South Carolina in 1967, right out of high school. After graduation from boot camp, Mr. Crew spent another 4 weeks in advanced infantry training at Camp Geiger. Thankfully, he missed Vietnam in 67-68 due to a ground radio repair course at Marine Corps Recruit Depot in San Diego, California. However, in 1969, his luck ran out, and he was shipped to Vietnam with an artillery unit. Mr. Crew injured his ankle there and was flown back to the States when President Nixon decided to decrease the amount of American troops in Vietnam. They gave Mr. Crew the option of staying in or discharging out. And he wrote this, okay? He said, "My mama may have had ugly babies, but she didn't have stupid babies." And took the opportunity to leave the Marine Corps in April of 1970. Mr. Crew made the decision to get right with the Lord after making it safely out of Vietnam. Using his GI Bill, he attended Central Bible College in Missouri. It was there that he met his wife, Fran. Upon graduation, George pastored a small church in Maine for 3 years. While pastoring, he furthered his education at the University of Maine and received a BS in accounting. He began working with the Air Force as a civil service auditor. In the meantime, he joined the Army Reserves as a medical services officer just to have a part-time job for extra income while he and his wife were having 3 babies. Little did he know that he would retire from his part-time job as a major with over 20 years of service. During this time, Mr. Crew's goal was to work for the Air Force Civil Service at the Pentagon. The Air Force promoted him from internal auditing to financial management and transferred him and his family from Maine to Alabama to Anchorage, Alaska, and on to Tokyo, Japan, eventually landing him where he wanted to be at the Pentagon. He retired from the Air Force Civil Service Financial Management Quality of Life Program. Grandchildren brought Mr. and Ms. Cruz to Davie County, where they now live a relaxed and laid-back lifestyle. Thank you for your service, and please lead us in the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ethics and conflict disclosure. Mr. Vogler.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 160A 86 and Davie County Board of Commissioners Code of Ethics, adopted December the 2nd, 2019. I would ask each of you before you adopt the agenda if there's any actual, potential, or perceived conflicts of interest with respect to any matter on the proposed agenda which will come before the board for a vote this evening. If so, please speak up and let the board know now before the agenda is adopted. Seeing no one speak up, I conclude there's no actual, potential, or perceived conflicts of interest by any board member as to this agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vogler. We're going to adopt the agenda now, but I need a motion to remove item L from the consent agenda. We did not realize when we put that on consent that we have to have a public hearing, so we need to pull that off. Could I get a motion?
I'll make a motion to remove that item from the agenda.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Second. Mr. Reniger seconds. Any other discussion or questions? All in favor? All right. Thank you so much. Now, do I have a motion to adopt the amended agenda?
So moved.
Ms. Finney, do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Reniger seconds. Any questions? All in favor? Okay. Mr. Barnett, presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Tonight, we have one presentation on our agenda. Our Fire Marshal and Emergency Management Director, Cameron Webb, wanted to give an update of the efforts of Davie County during the aftermath of Hurricane Helene.
Commissioners, thank you for having me. I apologize, I am a little bit under the weather, but I promise I'll get through this. Brings me a great joy to be able to present this to you all. I have done this at our local our LEPC meeting, so our local emergency planning committee meeting. Town of Bermuda Runs had me there, and then just recently, Mr. Rollins allowed me to speak last week. So if you have any questions, please just let me know if I'm moving too fast. So for the group, I am Cameron Webb. I'm the Fire Marshal and the Emergency Management Director. What does that mean? Does anyone know? Fire Marshal's pretty easy. I'm the guy you don't want to see when you're building stuff. So, you know, during a time of, or a state of emergency, typically I'm the guy you might want to see or at least know or try to get to know. So what did our county do during Hurricane Helene? What did we send? How did we play a role, considering that we were not even affected, you know, during this time? So emergency management, the fire and rescue service, EMS, law enforcement, our HHS, our DSS, our public utilities, planning and zoning, we ran different logistics, all of our Dipper assets, and many, many, many donations is how we played a role. So what is a local emergency management's function or manager's function, you know, during a time like this? So the picture that you see up there has a lot to do with a centralized operations center known as our EOC, so our Emergency Operations Center. Basically, if there's a need, if there's a push for resources, so on and so forth, all that funnels down to one person, one entity, just to make everything smooth and transition. It's not that necessarily anyone needs my permission to leave this county. And again, I hope JD doesn't mind, but I'll use the sheriff. He answers to a completely different set of bylaws when it comes to, you know, his guys leaving and what their marching orders are. And he just usually fills me in, hey, look, I got this many going, and I just try and keep track of that best that I can. So my job during that time, along with many other people, is to work with local, state, and federal agencies. So that's anything from our neighbors within the county to our states next door to our federal agents such as FEMA. Managing local missions as assigned. So, you know, when people call us and want to know if we have something we have to give, something that we can share with them to better their situation, I'm typically the person that may call. Now, again, what I like about our versatility with our county is it may not be me that gets the call. It may be JD, it may be a commissioner, it may be Mr. Barnett with all his experience. But nonetheless, we try and funnel that all down to one management system, and then we send it where it needs to go. Management of personnel, again, that mainly pertains to me and my folks. I don't, I'll check in on, again, I'm using JD. I'll check in on his guys. I checked in with development services folks, made sure they made it down safe, made sure they had a comfortable place to be, so on and so forth. And then again, managing the EOC. So kind of what you're seeing right there is what we would like to call kind of a soft opening. As resources started leaving, at the time, John Gallimore got his team down there, even in his state at this time. He's down there, he's getting me computers, he's getting me phone banks, signage, so on and so forth, and everything looks the way it's kind of depicted there. The door kind of to the left of that picture is all the missions that were completed at that point in time. The wall to the right is every active mission that we had and keeping up with where everyone was going. Just another picture of what it looks like to receive a mission ticket on my end. So here's a little bit of detail about what each agency did and how they contributed. I did leave one out by mistake. I'm not sure how it got deleted, but I'll make sure I rectify that. Oh, thanks, Karen. So JD's folks were actually some of the initial folks to hit boots on the ground. They traveled to McDowell County or Old Fort, North Carolina. They done a 7-day mission there and then turned around and didn't do a crew swap, but was immediately asked if they had another 5 folks that they could send out to Mitchell County. Most of Davie County, as we'll get towards the end of this presentation, you'll find that most of us ended up in Mitchell County in some way, shape, or form. JD also let me know that he had 2 officers activated by the National Guard, so they weren't necessarily activated Davie County, but hey, the military called them up and said, hey, we need you to come. So one thing I want to hit on with talking with Mark Crater through multiple times in doing this presentation is just what they went through. People talk about deployments and they talk about different aspects of it, and some of them are good, but some of them are really bad. No place to sleep, no air conditioning, no good running water. If you think that all those situations didn't happen up there, they definitely happened to our folks. Okay, they were in the middle of a storm, trying to do the best they could with the details they had, and were often left in the dark. Small towns, so on and so forth. They keep things kind of tight and compact, and then we send resources where they need to go. So, but we were treated very well in both counties, from what I understand. So it was great. So our FMO and our EM stuff, every single asset that we possibly had that was procured by the state of North Carolina in past, present, and hopefully in the future, was all gone. Everything from cot trailers to side-by-sides, our MERT trailer. So a couple of those things that I highlighted here, both of our 50 kW generators went to power the Viper tower. So why is that important? And for those in the audience that doesn't know what a Viper tower is, it's how a lot of us first responders communicate. Our first generator was sent to Beach Mountain and then the Henderson Viper towers. So what it done is their generators flooded out, waters receded, and then from there, they connected our generators directly in so that our first responders could talk to each other statewide. Okay, so pretty proud of that, pretty proud of what our county was able to do there. Our side-by-side, I'm gonna keep this one clean. We were asked to take the suppression unit off of it and just have a clean bed. When I asked why, they just said, hey, we're gonna need it for recovery. Our MERT trailer was used to divert traffic through series of tunnelways and roadways and so on and so forth, kind of the turnaround, don't drown. Our light tower took 2 trips. The first one was to I-40 to aid SHP. They cut the road off right at Old Fort, matter of fact, and folks were just not paying attention. A couple of our fellow troopers, not here, but there, almost got hit several times. People just trying to blow by with supplies, resources, and so on and so forth. It ended up in Henderson County powering a compound of, I believe, a couple Swiftwater teams, and then either an HHS or a public works group. Okay. Our 125 kW, this is still very much true. We had our Swiftwater team deployed to Bakersville. I got a phone call late one night. We sent it up. Long story short, it's still there. We have laid eyes on it. We do have certain things in place to make sure it's still being run properly and maintained. And you can see the picture in the top right-hand corner. That's where that's at. One of the last, but one of probably the most monumental things, or the biggest task that we took on, was the state of North Carolina bought from James River Equipment almost 140 of those side-by-sides. And, you know, when I called for help, Johnny Lambert himself said, hey, if you need something, just take it. So depicted down there is Johnny's pickup truck hooked to one of their gooseneck trailers, and we hauled about 4 of those things at a time, and we hauled about 66 of them from Baden Lake, 66, 70, somewhere around in there, from Baden Lake all the way to Hickory and some remote locations. Joseph Ashburn and his group with EMS, they deployed a crew to Haywood County, a total of 3 folks. In that tour, they stayed out about 7 days. They were very well taken care of, just assisting with EMS calls. They lost a lot of EMS units, a lot of fire trucks, police cars. They literally had nothing. Assisted OEMS with EMS crews being staged throughout Davie County. So what that means is we have our partners at PHPC over on Bethel Church Road, and those folks were in charge. They were the centralized hub. So every ambulance that you guys might have seen coming from Davie County or coming into Davie County might have been from California, might have been from Kentucky, might have been from Texas. The furthest I seen was California, but everyone was to drive there, check in, and then move downrange when they're told to. Medical examiners were put on standby, but they stayed here in Davie County. Another thing to add on to, not really the EMS, but kind of what happened, is PHPC does not have washing capabilities to wash and dry clothes. So one of our local fire departments, every single day for almost 2 weeks, washed and dried countless. I want to say it was around 30 loads of laundry, picked it up, organized it, stacked it, folded it, and returned it to our first responders from EMS. So huge undertaking, and you know, it's just, it goes to show the magnitude of what we can do, sometimes with very little. I mean, I think they literally worked like 4 washing machines and 4 dryers at one time. So awesome stuff. Rodney's group at the communication center took calls from Wilkes County, so everything was transferred in. They took the calls from Wilkes, and they were just overwhelmed. So I know Rodney played a big role in his comm center during that time. Our volunteer fire departments, again, I mentioned Sheffield Callahan with washing everything. Coolamy Fire Department was the first one to deploy west. They also did a couple extra missions for me while they were gone. They were gone for about 5 days. It was very early on, but they were sent to Spruce Pine. Advanced Fire Department and its drone team in 2 separate occasions went again to Spruce Pine, which is still in Mitchell County. And then Moxville Fire Department ended up in Marshall County at Kings Mountain Fire Department, and I think they had a 3-day deployment. Our swift water team, for those that don't know, we do have a state certified swift water team. They deployed in county for 48 hours, checked over boats, played a huge part in what that looked like, and how they ended up moving forward. So they ended up again in Bakersville, North Carolina. After those 48 hours, Andy Lipscomb ended up receiving orders, and they sent them down for 7 days. They were sent as a Type 3 swift water team, and then ended up forming in with a USAR team. So something they weren't really planning on doing, because that's not really a capability that we have, but they made the best of it. Depicted there's the group that went, and then below that some just pretty cool photos that were sent to me to help make this presentation. Suzanne, our HHS folks, and the DSS folks, I had no idea how much they had done until Mr. Barnett kind of started polling different things for you know, again, some sort of presentation like this. But food and supplies were collected, day shift nurses, vaccines, all kinds of different things. Public health really did contribute to the Hurricane Helene efforts. When I tell you they lost everything, they lost a lot. I mean, think about the time of COVID when we had to manage those COVID vaccines. There was no power to keep the ultra cold stuff there. So, you know, they done the best that they could. So environmental health, water testing, headed to Watauga County, and then 3 REHS staff. 14 senior citizens were flown out of Lake Lure community and were actually here in Davie County. I got this information very late, but we were super happy to house them. I did not make it by to wish them well in, but they stayed as long as they needed to while things were being provided and fixed at their permanent facility. Johnny's folks provided 4 10-inch high-max couplings to the city of Asheville. For those that don't know or maybe just read a couple things, the city of Asheville had a huge undertaking, had no water. They didn't even have potable water. It had all washed away. So think about all the things that we take for granted, daily. Not having good, clean bath water, not having running water. And the water that you are taking in, you're just not real sure about it. So very cool that Johnny and them were able to send those out and get some pipelines sent in. Planning and development, this was the first time that I've been a part of planning and development services sending somebody in, but they played a pivotal role during that. They sent 1 personnel to the Western region to do building inspections. So some of these DIPPER assets, DIPPER stands for Disaster Preparedness and Response. So right there to the left, top left, is message board signs. Both of ours got sent. Those are not ours, but I done the best I could. Our stuff didn't come back until after this presentation was made. We assisted Davidson County with sending a Western shelter to provide sheltering for homeless, anyone that would take it. The middle picture there, we did make the local news talking about how much work Davie County was putting in. And as you can see kind of to the far left of that, it's kind of blending in with the picture, but that's how we had to lift those gators to get them onto the to the trailers. That's what Brush 81 come back looking like, and a lot of people would be like, oh my goodness, like, why didn't they clean up my stuff? Not me. That thing went for a good use and a good purpose, and that's a workhorse, and it's a tool, and we got it cleaned up, we got it serviced, and it runs just fine. So super happy to send those. At the end of Hurricane Helene, how did everybody contribute? I can personally say that there wasn't a stone unturned when it come down to donations, and when the Human Resources and Clerk to the Board reached out to Mitchell County and getting the word out. We had all the townships partake, we had all the agencies partake, fire departments, rescue squad, everyone really pitched in to help Mitchell County during their hard times. We were getting close to Christmas. We heard that there are a lot of people that didn't have resources, didn't have things to give their kids, didn't have the money, didn't have a place to put it. So Harris Middle School took in our toy donation, and that picture is the bottom left, all the way to the left. There were people in there making little, store-like setups for a family of at least 4 to come in and just take one. You didn't really know what you were getting, but those kids were able to have a Christmas, some form or fashion. Picture just there kind of in the middle is everyone that went. We went to Mitchell County Humane Society. Just before we left, we departed our LEPC meeting and found out that a call for a resource come in. Well, it was never picked up close to Mitchell County, and I worked with the animal control, and we went and picked that stuff up. I bet we delivered, I don't know the exact amount, but I bet we delivered 2,000 to 3,000 pounds of dog food. And to kind of set you up for what that looked like, when we got to Mitchell County, Karen can attest to this, when we got there, their shop, their makeshift storage container was almost empty. And by the time we got done with it, it was full. So super ecstatic to be able to help that. And then we finally tracked down Freedom Baptist Church that was able to take men's, women's, and children's clothing that was brought to January LEPC meeting, okay? And then I'd like to thank Trailers of the East Coast. They've done a lot of donating and a lot of time. Mr. Bill Junker, I went down there and I told him, I said, listen, I don't have a trailer available. Normally I would. He said, go out there and pick the one that you want. I said, well, I'd like to have one with your name on it. He said, well, that'll be fine. He said, don't worry about it. He said, just bring it back when you're done. So we went up to Mitchell County, made a day of it, and just super ecstatic. If you think Davie County stayed, stagnant during Hurricane Helene and just watched everybody else suffer, I assure you, for the public that doesn't know, we did not. I want to thank the commissioners. I want to thank my manager and everybody else that stood behind us during that time and let us work how we needed to work during this time of emergency. Thank you. And I can answer any questions you have.
Thank you, Cameron. I tell you, we really appreciate all you did in terms of working with not only our volunteer fire departments. I think every church in Davie County was doing something, and it was a tough time, but we really appreciate all you did. And this is live streamed, and I would say this to the citizens of Davie County. We appreciate everything that everyone in Davie County did for the folks in Western North Carolina. Guys, anybody else, comments or questions?
I just appreciate what you did and how you organized it and all the people that pitched in.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cameron, for all you and everybody did. I think very few people understand what kind of an overwhelming job it is to even do what we did here. And it wasn't even our disaster, but it's a lot of work and a lot of organization and a lot of contacts, so thank you.
Absolutely. Well, and like I've told people, Miss Feeney, 90 miles east, and it'd have been us.
That's right.
And I assure you that everybody would have come together and we'd have figured out how to get those resources here.
Go ahead. I'd just like to say thank you. Davie County is richly blessed to have people volunteer for everything that comes along, and this is no exception. Thank all of you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Cameron.
Thank you.
All right. Public comment. Mr. Vogler.
Mr. Chair, we've got 4 people signed up. Public comment rules were available up there, but each person speaking during public comment was to sign up. You're allowed 3 minutes to speak. Immediately stop when your 3 minutes are up. You'll have a timer you'll see on the screen that will let you know when those 3 minutes are up. Karen Logan is the timekeeper, and she takes care of that apparatus that goes on up there. You're to address the board as a whole, not ask any verbal exchanges back and forth between the board. It's not intended to be not intended to be a question and answer session, but instead is to be only public comment from the public to the board. Make all presentations from the board. I would ask each one of you as you come forward to the podium to state your full name so that Madam Clerk can get that down and for her minutes that she has to keep so that we've got that. So with that said, the first individual we've got is Heather Pigram, and she's going to speak on the topic of concern is Ashley Furniture.
Good evening. Thank you. I'm a resident of the beautiful Baltimore Trails neighborhood off of Baltimore Road. My family and I moved here to enjoy the peaceful life and all the great things that embody Davie County. We love it here. We've been alerted that Ashley Furniture is negotiating with Norfolk Southern Railroad to recommission a defunct branch of the railroad that runs directly through the neighborhoods of Baltimore Downs and Baltimore Trails. The intent of Ashley is to transport hazardous chemicals via rail to their distribution center to manufacture mattresses. This is an environmental hazard to residents, including potential exposure to PFAS and PFAS, otherwise known as forever chemicals. There's also an exposure to groundwater contamination. This will also be a travesty to our property values. We will experience a disrupted quality of life and encounter safety hazards if this project comes to fruition. As taxpayers, we respectfully seek the county's assistance to understand how we can block this proposed action or otherwise engage in environmental agencies to evaluate the impact to the residents as well as the protected wetlands in the area. While we respect Ashley's right to expand their business, it should not be to the detriment of individual citizens or residents in Davie County. I will close with 3 words: remember Palestine, Ohio. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we've got Holly Watts. Again, topic of concern is Ashley Furniture.
Good evening. My name is Holly Watts. I understand that this is not a county issue, but with the issues of Ashley Furniture Industries off of Baltimore Road, I've been a citizen here, a resident for over 20 years, living on Baltimore Road, and I've just noticed an increase in the roadside trash. I personally went and picked up some trash on just a section of Baltimore Road and picked up 7 bags of a lot of stuff. And I just wanted to just make it everyone aware that it's a real problem, and like some assistance in the future, or hopefully from the county or the community to help us clean up the trash.
Next, we've got Kane, and I am not able to make out that last name. Okay, thank you.
Hey, y'all. My name's Katie Gallahue. It's spelled Gallehugh. I'm a lefty, so my handwriting is not the best. All right. So thank you for the opportunity to speak with y'all today. I think we can all agree we live in Davie County because it is a quiet and beautiful community. My husband and I moved here 5 years ago into Baltimore Trails off of Baltimore Road. And we recently learned about Ashley Furniture's proposal to recommission the Norfolk Southern tracks to their facility. I find it highly concerning, and everyone that I have spoken to about it in my community feels the exact same. We're already subjected to Ashley Furniture's light and noise pollution since they expanded the facility. And allowing them to recommission the Norfolk Southern rail line is going to be highly disruptive to Davie County residents. Not only will it adversely impact our property tax values, but it's really going to inhibit our ability to quietly enjoy the community that we love. And so I would just echo what my neighbor Heather Pigram mentioned earlier, that we would love the assistance of the board in trying to find out how we can stop this proposal. Thank you.
And last, we've got Lee Rollins, Town of Moxville.
Good evening. I am Lee Rollins, Rollins. For the record, I won't take but just a second, but I wanted to come to let you know that I am excited to be the manager in Moxville. I have already had the opportunity to meet with Mr. Barnett. We have a lot of mutually beneficial things that we will work on. And I just wanted to let you know from my Board of Commissioners, our commitment is, one, to partner whenever we can. We're all citizens of Davie County. Two, to be strategic in our investment so that we don't duplicate things in which the county is taking the lead. Three, we thank you for your partnerships in economic development in the Moxville area in particular. And then lastly, I would just remind us, for those that have been here a while, the opportunities that these local units of government have had in making some pretty big transformative projects in this county, one of which was the community college campus. That was a public-private partnership between the town of Moxville and the county and the private sector, as well as the YMCA. So I love that I'm a 5-minute walk from the office, although I don't typically walk, I drive. And I look forward to working with Mr. Barnett and his team, and we'll certainly keep him informed so that we all have a high level of communication between both units of government. So thank you very much.
Mr. Chair, that's all that has signed up tonight.
All right, thank you so much. Public hearing, Mr. Barnett.
Thank you again, Mr. Chairman. Tonight we have here Mr. Easter to talk to you about some proposed changes to the subdivision ordinance. I know this is something that has been on you all's radar, being that me and Mr. Easter started about the same time. This is something that came to our attention early on, and it's taken us a little bit of time to get to this point, but we think we have something tonight as part of our continued conversation for you to consider approval of.
Thank you, Board. I'm going to present this to you. This has been, the Planning Board has looked at this on 3 different occasions. I showed you guys and submitted some of these proposals back in a workshop meeting a couple months back, and so now this is kind of the finished product. So what we're looking at with some of the proposed changes, in order to change the subdivision ordinance, we have to go into the zoning ordinance as well. So in the zoning ordinance, as it currently states, 98% of the county is zoned RA or R20, and in both of those, the minimum lot size is spelled out in the zoning ordinance as 30,000 square foot. Part of the changes that I'm submitting is we're changing the minimum lot size to 40,000 square foot. So subsequent changes in the subdivision ordinance would need to address it in the zoning ordinance as well. So those changes and what we're looking to change there is In RA, the minimum lot size would be 40,000 square foot, and in R20, the minimum lot size would be 40,000 square foot as well. So, what we're looking at in there, and these are the changes for the subdivision ordinance, in 5442, the change what we're asking for is lots served by public or private water, but not by public sewer, shall have an area not less than 40,000 square foot. Currently, if you have public water, but not, I'm sorry. So if you have public water, you can be 30,000 square foot. If you don't have public water, it's 40,000 square foot. So that's a little changed. So, but in discussion and through workshops through the planning board, it's across the board, all lots, regardless if you're served by public water or private water, shall have a minimum square footage of 40,000 square foot. Anytime if you guys have any questions, just let me know. All right. So what we've done with the subdivision approval process is we've made it into classes. So class 1, so currently in the subdivision ordinance, a major subdivision is defined as 3 or more lots. So if you are a major subdivision as a part of the approval process and you have 10 or less lots, the only approval that you would need is a TRC, which is a technical review, and then staff approval of the site plan. So the same process, you would either hire a private licensed soil scientist or go through the local health department. We would still have meetings, the lots would be perked, we would look at the design and approve it, and then we would sign off on it with no changes other than what is currently in the subdivision ordinance in regards to roads, cul-de-sacs, minimum lot size with that. So the approval process would just be the TRC and staff approval, 10 or less lots.
Johnny, but just for clarification for the good of everybody listening, those that could be approved by basically staff still would have to comply with some of the, the 40,000.
Yes, correct.
And it would still, when you get down here, it would still have to comply with the 150-foot road
Correct.
minimum.
Correct.
If it was something kind of similar to something like at Sheffield Road or anywhere.
Correct.
That would be different now than it was then, and the size lots would not make that change. That would all be enforced, that part.
Correct. So we're not adding anything to the approval process that's currently not there for these. So you would still go through the same approval process what's currently on the books now. So the next stage is a class 2 major subdivision. If you go and your subdivision is proposed, you have 11 or 25 lots. We're looking at a technical review, a TRC, and staff approval of the site plan. You would have to set aside common area, open space, shall not be less than 15% of the total development area. Open space shall be held in common ownership by a homeowners association as common open space. You would have to have pedestrian access. Sidewalks shall be provided on at least one side of the street. Sidewalks shall be constructed of concrete brick, stone paving materials, or case-by-case basis. Sidewalks shall have a minimum width of 5 feet. Vertical clearance along the sidewalk shall be at least 8 feet high and maintained by the homeowners association. Final site plan design and approval by the Davie County Planning Board.
Can I ask you a question about that?
Sure.
Okay, in terms of approval of site plans.
Okay.
You guys approve a site plan for a development, just hypothetically.
Okay.
60 days later or 6 months later, they come back with a change in the site plan that you approved. What's the process?
They would have to, so once we approve the site plan and we sign off on it,
Yes.
that site plan is recorded through the register of deeds.
Yes.
So that site plan is recorded. Any subsequent changes, it invalidates all the approval process, and they would have to go back and we would address the specific changes. So in essence, the site plan is recorded at that point through the register of deeds, just like with anything else.
So they would have to come back.
Correct. Yep.
Have to go through the process.
Correct.
again.
Correct. Yep. So assuming, and I'll get to it and I'll clarify it, but the approval process we look at it from the planning board standpoint just to make sure it meets all the requirements. That it's not, they still have the 15% of common open space, the sidewalks are in place, all that's there. And then the planning board itself would look at it and sign off on it from that standpoint, said it meets the requirements of the subdivision ordinance. So the Class 3 major subdivision, we're going from 26 to 40 lots. Common space now is 18%, so we've increased the common space to 18%. You still have the pedestrian access, the sidewalks are there. We're asking for sidewalk lighting now, shall be required along sidewalks. All lighting shall be 15 foot or less in height. All light fixtures shall be located, aimed, or shielded to minimize stray light, trespassing across property boundaries, and can be directed in a way not to jeopardize traffic safety. Sidewalk lighting shall have a character compatible with the nature of the area and complementary to the building architecture, and shall provide at pedestrian intersections, public spaces, and along paths to parking lots and other destinations maintained by homeowners association. Final site plan and design approval by the Davie County Planning Board and as well as the Davie County Board of Commissioners. So in essence, when we go through this process, TRC, we look at it, it comes to the planning board, we review it, everything's okay. They've not made any changes. Then from that standpoint, it would come to this board for a consent agenda item as long as everything is completed and the developer is doing everything as required by the ordinance.
I want to piggyback on Mark's question. Similarly, if they decide to deviate from the original plan, but this one's got at least our blessing as part of it, how will that process?
The exact same process. If it's recorded and it goes through the process, and for whatever reason the new developer wants to change it and come back, it would have to go through this whole process again, because the deed, in essence, they're changing the deed. So once the deed and those restrictions and everything is incorporated and recorded via the deed, if they change anything else with that, we would have to go through the process again.
But if they deviated enough, and I don't want to jump too far ahead, but if they deviated enough after trying this, then we would get into this, something else you're going to present.
Correct.
Yeah, Mr. Easter, point of clarification on both Class 2 and Class 3, with the 15% and the 18% of developmental area or common space within the development area. Is the development area the building envelope, or is that the total?
It's the total subdivision itself.
So if I got 100 acres and I'm in phase 3 or I'm in Class 3 and 20 of it is floodplain, I have my common area in floodplain.
We'll get to that. I'm addressing that point specific when we get to the bottom with that. I'll go ahead and address it now. So when we talk about common space, to qualify as common space, because we might have a developer that comes in there and they can't use it anyway, and a lot of it's in floodplain. Part of that, at least 30% of the gross area, unless this board allows them to change it, must be suitable for and designed to be used as active recreation space. For example, walking trails, ball fields, community swimming pools, playgrounds, and the like. So with that area, so 30%, so that 100 acres, 20 acres, 30% of the 20 acres, I know the math is here, but they would have to, as the developer would say, we're going to set aside as walking trails, we're going to do dog parks, something to that to meet that requirement. If they differ from that, they would have to come to this board. They would first go through the planning board for the approval process, and then they would have to come to this board to differ from the requirements of this to get the blessing of this board to change.
So in Terry's hypothetical, it'd be approximately 6 acres.
Right.
That would be outside the floodplain.
Right, correct. So of that, doing that math, so 6 acres of that area, they would have to be pickleball courts, dog parks, a playground, or something of that effect, walking trails.
Well, I'm not trying to be counter to that, but just if it came up in a question, for walking trails, would that not be okay and suitable for a floodplain?
Correct. Yes.
So it really, wouldn't there be a little bit of play then in there for the
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
30%
yeah,
roll?
yeah. The development, you know, in a floodplain, without spending a exorbitant amount of money, they couldn't put a recreational center in there, if you will. But if they wanted to put a dog park in it, if they
Like
wanted
a soccer park.
a soccer park, a swimming pool, probably not. But it would need to be set aside. Other than, okay, this property, we can't use X amount of this property, so we're not going to do anything with it anyway. The intent of this is to have the developers put some skin in the games to have some amenities for the community as a whole. If they can't do that, then that's where they would come and propose to this board about, well, this is why we can't do it. We're going to, I don't know, might do whatever. But this board to say, if we're going to differ from what the requirements of the approval process, they're going to have to show in good faith how they're going to do that.
But we could let them be more, they could be heavier on, I don't mean the 40,000 and all that, but they could be heavier in their development. Let's say that the floodplain was a good part of that 30%, but they could demonstrate that they've got a park there, they've got walking trails there, they've got beach volleyball, whatever
Correct.
the case.
Correct.
They could make it where most of their green space was dedicated to that area.
Correct. And then also with this, if they came through and they said, look, we're not doing 18% of common open space, but we're going to do, because it's the way the design of the lot, we're doing 3-acre lots out there. Like our lots are 3 acres. Minimum lot size is 40,000 square foot. We're doing 3-acre lots out there. So we've got a lot of green space, a lot of unusable area in there. So we're asking, because of the lot size, to not comply with the specified open common area, because the lots are going to be so big. So that those are as the developer goes and they're differing from this, that's where the conversation with the planning board at first, and then with this board to differ from the requirements of the subdivision. So that's
One development could have more interspersed green space.
correct.
Another area could be more concentrated with houses and more concentrated with green space.
Yes. Yes.
Make up the percentage.
Yes. Yes. Questions? Question? Okay. Now we're class 4. We're TRC. The common open space is 20% now. It's 41 to 60 lots. We're looking at pedestrian access with the sidewalks, street lighting, then ornamental street trees to be planted along both sides of the street, maintained by a homeowners association. Shall have at least 2 NCDOT approved entry exits that connect or are accessed by a publicly dedicated or maintained street and road. So final site plan and design approval by the Davie County Planning Board and the Davie County Board of County Commissioners. So the 41 and 60, we're still common space, we still got sidewalks, we still got street lighting, we're adding street trees, 2 NCDOT approved entry and exit points into the subdivision. So this in and of itself, if they can't do that because of the way it is, then again, they're gonna have to be some give and take to go through the approval process. If they can't get into NCDOT, then they're gonna have to be some concessions made, and the final site plan or B approval would have to be through this board. The Class 5 subdivision or 61 or plus lots, common open space is 22%. We're still looking at sidewalks, street lighting, street trees, 2 NCDOT approved entryways, and then also curb and gutter is required in the major subdivisions. Final site plan and design approval by the Davie County Planning Board and Davie County Board of County Commissioners. Where we have a major subdivision, where we have a developer come in and the lot sizes are 5 acres or more, then in essence, they just go through TRC and staff approval. So if we have mini farms, which we see a lot of that, if they're wanting to build a lot of these bigger farms, which normally with this, we're gonna be 10 or less anyway, but if there's a subdivision out there that's gonna do 20, 25 acre lots out there and says, well, I don't wanna put sidewalks in because I got 20 acre lots, then you say, okay, you're exempt from that. We go through TRC. As it currently states in our subdivision ordinance, if you have a 5 acres or lot minimum, you can have gravel roads in it. You don't have to do NCDOT standard roads, so that allows for a developer to do bigger lots in there and still maintain a private road. As stated early, to qualify as open space, 30% of that area shall be set aside for recreational. With that, then also along the approval process, alternative compliance measures may be proposed in which vary from the strict application of the above requirements in order to accommodate the unique character of the site or to utilize innovative design. Alternative compliance may be granted by the Davie County Planning Board and findings that the proposed alternate fulfills the compliance of of the chapter as better would. If it's better or if it's different, this board can make the final decision whether or not to allow that or not. So questions?
I got one follow-up question.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. You go first.
If a developer comes to the board, is granted kind of what we would call an exception, or we come up with an acceptable compromise that's good for everybody, and then they get into that process and want to sort of deviate from that site plan or that plat or whatever they filed, what will be that follow-up process? Are they gonna then come before us again to talk about further conditions?
Sure. No, they would, in essence, if for whatever reason we go through this process and they agree to, I don't know, just whatever, and then they go back and they've discovered that they don't do that, then if they want to deviate from that, those changes would have to go back through the planning board and then have to come back to this board for final approval again. So it would always divert back to the planning board. They would present to the planning board would grant their blessing, and then it would come to this board again for the final approval. But when they, after they go through and whatever was discussed and they're okay with that, then it would be put on the final plat, and then it would come to this board and would be presented to the board for them to say, give the thumbs up to, and then they would record it with those requirements in.
So my question is, I know we're gonna have a public hearing about this later, but have all of these specifications been compared to the upcoming fire code appendices that we'll be adding to our policies? Do you? Because I know some of those include road size, so that emergency apparatus can easily enter and exit the developments and things like that. Is that all gonna be?
That is, we don't address fire code if it's approved, then in essence, those would have to be incorporated in this.
Have to be added to this.
No, it's a part of it. It references, the subdivision ordinance would just recognize fire code. It's pretty much clear in there for what it is, the road size. If you read in subdivision ordinance and all that, there's a specific NCDOT standard, but I don't know what specific nomenclature it uses, but it's like the fire authority can supersede that. Mm-hmm. So if for whatever changes that fire code there, the developer would have to comply with those.
It automatically defaults to that.
Correct.
So it
In
needs
layman's
to be.
terms.
Yeah.
That would be part of the TRC, wouldn't it?
Yeah, and that would go through the TRC. So we would sit down with the developer, and if it says they have to do X, Y, Z, then they're gonna have to comply with that. Yeah.
So because I do not know those appendices by heart, are there any requirements in there in regards to the exits and entries, or is it just road width? Do you remember, Cameron?
So just to make it short and sweet, me and Johnny have a good common working relationship. Whatever needs to be done, we'll make sure it gets done. Prior to finding out that the appendices weren't adopted in the ordinance or the fire marshal's office, we're gonna go through those hoops. Johnny's already met with me about all this stuff. There are certain things that require egress, and even when we as you know, we've already adopted the 2025 fire code. When that happens, I don't have to worry about the appendices or bring that to your attention because it will be a part of the North Carolina 2025 fire code. And at that point, me and Johnny, we probably will sit down because ingresses and egresses based on his typing we would just need to implement, but
Okay.
I have no worries.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anything else?
I just need to say this before my head explodes. I mean, I understand what we're trying to do here, but everyone needs to understand that this is going to add a lot of cost to lots, and I'm okay with that. But, you know, we have an issue with affordable housing, and this isn't going to help. So, you know, I just put that out there for consideration, but I understand what we're trying to do, and you know, the message from the county is to slow down building and make it more attractive, and I'm with that, but this is not going to help affordability at all, so for what that's worth.
Any other questions? Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Easter. Now we will move into public hearing. Right?
Chair has announced this is that day and hour for the public hearing pursuant to North Carolina General Statutes, Chapter 160D of the General Statutes and Chapter 155 Davie County Code of Ordinance for amending the zoning ordinance regarding text amendments for subdivision ordinances. There has been due public notice given pursuant to the requirements of North Carolina General Statutes and Davie County Code of Ordinance by way of due publication of notice of the public hearing in a newspaper of general circulation in Davie County. The clerk of the board has attached the affidavit showing publication in said paper. I would ask all who wish to comment at this public hearing to come forward to the podium, state your full name, and then comment on the proposals. Seeing no one come forward to comment, I'd now turn the public hearing back over to you as board chair to close the public comment section of this public hearing, provide the board the opportunity to discuss among yourselves what, if any, action you wish to take at this time.
All right. Do we have a motion to close the Ms. Poindexter second?
Second.
Ms. Finney, all in favor? Okay. Now, we'll get a motion here in just a second. Johnny, I have a question. Could you explain something? I think it relates a little bit to what maybe Terry is alluding to here. And it may be completely chasing a rabbit.
Sure.
Okay. But if we have a father who has a 10-acre or 25-acre plot of land, and he wants to subdivide part of that acreage for his children or grandchildren or whatever, how does that relate in the context of what we're doing here?
So in the subdivision ordinance, we allow, it's exempt. There's certain things that are exempt in family up to, there's specific things that you have to do, but they would be exempt from this. So the father could go in and say, I'm giving, you know, my granddaughter these 4 or 5 people, those names are specifically on the deed and they're exempt from this ordinance. So it would not, minor subdivisions or the ability for someone to give property to their family, that they're exempt from this. Now, if that same property owner was going to divide it and develop it and sell it out, then they would be subject to this. But if they're just, the sole purpose is to subdivide the property to give to their specific, you know, grandchildren's, you know, family members, there's a family, it's a family subdivision, and there's an exemption in the subdivision ordinance to allow them to do that.
To help with somewhat affordability?
Yes. Yes, absolutely, absolutely, yeah.
But they would still have to honor the 40,000 square foot.
Yes, yeah, the 40,000 square foot, they would honor that, yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I do have one question. I'm going to ask the county attorney, because this question has come up in some of our other land use questions. If this change is approved tonight, how does that affect any development that may be underway right now with permitting, with whether they're with the planning department, with public utilities or environmental health?
Where they've already got a plan or an application or anything formalized, it would not affect those. If they have just come in and talked to Johnny but have not made applications, doesn't have any sort of formal plans that they've given to the Developmental Services Department, plats, drawings, that type of thing. And if they've not done any of that, then this would come into play.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Vogler, just to be clear, if someone has come and presented a site plan that's been adopted, clearly this wouldn't affect it. But if they've been talking to Johnny and Johnny's made representations based on the current plan, are you saying that would not be affected?
If they've not made any applications to Johnny, they've just come in and talked to him and says, I'm thinking about doing a subdivision out here, and right now, under the current laws, what can I do and what can't I do? And Johnny tells them in the current law, this is what you can and can't do, then obviously he's made a representation as to what the current law is at that point in time. If that law changes before they come back and say, we decided we definitely want to do a subdivision now, and the law has changed, then they've got to comply with the new law.
Pay their fee.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, pay their fee and do what they need to do.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Is there anything that would constitute what would make something a concrete grandfather type situation, so we don't feel like we're being punitive to anybody?
Well, obviously, if someone has already done everything except started moving dirt or whatever, obviously they already have something that's grandfathered. If they've already recorded plats, that would be grandfathered in. But if they're just in the early planning stages, it's not going to be grandfathered in.
I think the truest question I've got with regard to that is a parcel that may have been looked at by numerous people along the way, submitting numerous plans along the way, but never was purchased by anybody. But then all the, how does all the site plans and stuff play into that if somebody hasn't even owned it, but different people along the way have experimented and looked at and decided to back out, and it finally gets purchased? I mean,
Yeah.
what?
And then, you don't have any applications at that point in time. You don't have any fees paid or anything at that point in time. You've got people that's just been talking about developing a tract of land. And as you say, one person drops out, another one comes in, and then that person drops out, and the third one comes in, and that person or organization drops out, and the fourth one decides they want to do that. If they, at that point in time, have not done anything other than told the landowner if they want to do something, but they've not done anything with Johnny and Developmental Services, and then the law changes before they do anything, then they've got to comply with the new law. If they have started doing something, though, at that point in time, whether it's A or C or D out there, whoever it is, if they've started something at that point and paid their fees and moving forward on it, then they're going to be grandfathered in.
This sounds, just listening to, sounds a little vague, okay? Let me ask you this question. At what point in your process, technical review committee, fees paid, at what point, Johnny, is this a concrete project that we've used the term grandfathered in your mind? When does that process begin?
Sure. So just to give an example, I have multiple conversations with various people throughout the course. I'll get a phone call that somebody has 100 acres and looking about what they need to do. Well, I've got this, up on whatever road, and I might want to put a subdivision. What do I got to do? To me, that's just talk. Once they are working, if they have an engineer working with Mr. Lambert in the utilities to get the utilities worked out, they'll have a vague basic site plan. They're working with Mr. Lambert to utilities to do hydraulic analysis, to start in that process. They've made application through environmental health to sit down to start the PERT test, which is all that. They've sat down with me, we've reviewed a site plan looking at this is what they're gonna do, and they're going through a licensed private soil scientist. Those are where we trigger, when we have something official submitted to one of the 3 agencies that handle these things that we look at, and we have an official meeting with them. This is what we're going with. Those will facilitate changes. But if I just get a phone call and say, we're gonna develop these 50 acres, what do I need to do? That the clock hasn't started on that.
And there's not a statute out there that says what grandfather is,
Right.
It's all case law that you gotta interpret. And
Well-
at what stage have they gone to the steps and started spending money to actually do
Well,
something?
we got a list that yesterday, or maybe this weekend from Brian, of projects that you're looking at, okay? Obviously, when we approve the ordinance tonight, that changes the whole process, because at that point, nothing is final until we approve a site plan. So all of this grandfathered in stuff is, I would assume, on this list
Correct.
we were
Yeah,
sent
yeah,
this
yeah.
week.
So
The potential for grandfathered in. Otherwise, we're approving an ordinance tonight, and we have some leeway here, but other than that, there is no leeway after the ordinance is approved.
Yeah. I had a conversation today. Today's Monday. With a developer was looking to do some stuff, and I said these changes are coming, and you're anything going forward from now, you're going to be subject to these approval, and they understand that. And I've had conversations with developers with this. Most of them know some of these things are coming. So with those changes, that they need to, that they're aware.
Okay.
So if it's under utility review, is that grandfathered in?
I would say so, yes.
It's on that list.
Everything on this list, even
The last one,
a preliminary review?
the very last one. The very last one, I mean, I would
That would be
say
questionable.
that might be the only one that may not have submitted an official project yet, but that's one that we've had a conversation about.
I mean, if we don't know the name of the development, okay, so, yeah, so that one's just preliminary review. What about just a preliminary site plan? You consider that?
Yes.
Already
yes.
going?
Yeah. If we sit down and they've hired, an engineer, because a lot of these, they're working on the back end, dealing with other agencies, dealing with Diener, dealing with, driveway permits, DOT. They're dealing all this back end. They're going to give us Plan A. So a lot of the ancillary stuff is working in the background to determine the feasibility of it. And it does change along the way. It's baked into the development that they determine it's not cost effective here. We're going to shift this or move this. But in a whole, we hold to what those are.
So one of the ones on this list is wanting to change their site plan. Are we gonna hold them to our new rules or the old rules if they're changing? That's gonna be a question.
I don't have a problem with allowing anybody that's already in the pool to deviate and be given the old rules. I don't want to make it punitive on them. My question is more, what if somebody does this and they don't even own the property yet, and then 4 years later, there's been 15 site plans presented? Is the clock restarted or is it not? I can live with it either way. I just want a clear definition.
I think under that set of facts, it's got to be restarted. I mean, if not, we're setting ourselves up for litigation.
I agree.
So I think tonight we need to decide, when does the meter start? The fact that they're talking to utilities, they're talking to public health. I mean, I think when you approve the plan, such as it is, that's when the meter starts, period, paragraph.
Well, I have no problem with this list that we have here. But I do think this is where the grandfathering kind of ends, in my opinion.
I guess we're in hopes that this is an exhaustive list of anything that could be grandfathered in.
So for example, we had one that has been working on that predated my tenure here, and has changed and morphed and changed and changed and changed. So it's to the point now to where only a small portion of the property would fall under the approval process originally, and everything else would have need to go to facilitate. So some of the changes that have been implemented have changed, and it fell under the old set of rules. So those were going to those, but they had applied and were working with other stuff. So over the time, it has changed from what we've done to say, hey, look, you're no more, you've deviated enough to where you're changing stuff that was originally approval. You're going to go back, and it turns to the 150-foot wide lots for the road. You know, everything else is that. So along the way, in working with developers and all these things, some of the changes along the way, and then I would say and this is something that I'd be more than happy to bring back to this board, if we have a deviation of a specific percentage would facilitate, it starts all the way over. When the clock starts, and I understand if we get a call and somebody says, well, hey, I'm doing 100 lots, and, they apply with Johnny and they've got a preliminary site plan, and then they come back and let's say 20 lots, and then they come back and say, now we're going to do 100 lots. Well, to me, that deviation is saying, hey, that's too large of a deviation. You're not, the clock starts over with that. We understand that, normally when the developers come to us, they're going to maximize the usable area period. And normally they present us with pie in the sky, 50 lots, this is what we got to do, and we understand we might need to shift. The end product is 48, 47 lots. To me, the differentiation is not enough. But if it facilitates a large enough change, then absolutely, then that's when I think that we don't do that, and with some of these.
But you just described someone that you had talked to, I guess. Mm-hmm. Are they on this list?
Yes.
Okay. This is what we're saying.
Yeah.
The list of projects that you're currently working with, I get it. This is me personally. Outside of that, the ordinance applies if it's approved tonight for the person that calls you tomorrow.
Correct. Okay. Correct. And I do, like I said, I do have a ton of conversations that people want to develop property. I had a meeting with a gentleman a week before last. It started with a campground to a par 3 golf course to it started out, we want to do a campground, and then he's like, well, we can do a par 3 golf course, and then it went to a tiny home kind of development, and then it ended up with just, hey, we might just do a subdivision. So those are the conversations. That clock doesn't start with him. They're just saying, hey, look, I've got 50 acres of land, and I don't know what to do with it, and I want to develop it and do X, Y, Z. To those, no. But when I sit down with an engineer and sit down with an architect, and we're dealing with a developer, and this is a proposal, and they've got applications through environmental health, and they're working with Johnny, and they've got a preliminary plan to this point, they've already invested time, money, and effort into the project. If I get a phone call and say, hey, look, I want to develop that, no, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
They're on the list, the people that you're in the project.
Yes, everybody that's on the list, they're on the list.
All right, those are the people that we're concerned with, that we're asking questions about.
Yeah.
Anybody that calls tomorrow, the new ordinance applies.
Well, they could have already called him, they just really haven't started planning.
They're not on the
They
list.
just ask questions, yeah.
And if you find one between now and then, it's kind of like, we're looking for the exhaustive list.
And we do, I do have, and I will say, not every development's going to be on the list. I will tell that. Not every one, but the ones are going to be there. When I say that, I'm subdividing and I'm putting in 4 lots, 3 lots, and it wouldn't be subject to any of the added stuff to begin with. So it's like I have one property where the gentleman submitted everything to me and said, here we go. I'm doing, he has changed a use of a property, had a property here, and now he's going to put some lots on it. So he hired and said, it's coming into me, and I said, doesn't meet the requirements. They got to be 150 foot wide. So he just had 4 lots, but the requirements, it was less than 10. He was doing 4 lots. So, you know, he changed it. So there might be a couple, but no 10 lots, no of those from that subdivision that would trigger a lot of these approval.
Thank you.
And then going tomorrow, I will say this, if this is adopted, and I apologize for this, going tomorrow, any new application, minimum lot size of Davie County is going to be 40,000 square foot if approved, okay, too. So that's going to facilitate, for every lot,
No, that's even.
every lot.
All right. Any other questions? Yeah, Terry?
Just a comment on that list. If that's the list, then, you know, I think that needs to be incorporated into this meeting or into these minutes, that's the list.
Okay.
With a friendly understanding that, to what Mr. Schoaf's already said, if something did make the list, then, you know, we need a mechanism to deal with this, because I think if this is adopted, which I'm pretty sure it's going to be, then, you know, you might have some interesting conversations, which is fine, but we just need to cover ourselves again. If that's the list, that needs to be the list.
Sure.
Okay.
So, Mr.
other
Chair,
questions?
any
Yep.
motions that are made, with that being said, you need to have part of your motion to incorporate the list that you've got that has been shared by Johnny into that motion.
Okay. And you're satisfied with this list?
I would like to just kind of take a look at the list too,
Okay.
just to make sure. But I understand the sentiment with this too. I know there's different agencies that update the list, that have access to the list, and I don't believe that those agencies are represented here tonight too, to speak to that. So I would, just to make sure it's the most up-to-date list with that. And I understand the sentiment with this, but I don't want to, you know, say, oh yeah, with this one I forgot to add this one, or this one hadn't been updated. So, but I understand that.
It has 16 developments on it.
I assume this list is what was shared with the board last night.
Yes. Over the weekend. You need to see it?
Yeah,
I mean-
I'd like to look at it. Yeah.
It,
Yeah, it came in last night. It's also on this manager's report that's laying on our desk.
I think this is okay. There's just one I just need to get some clarification about, but for the most part, I think it is.
okay,
I think I'm pretty sure with.
okay.
Yeah, but I think for the most part, it's there. And
Well,
I will say that there are going to be some that aren't on it, but it won't be anything. It will be, you know, 3 or 4 or 5 lots at most. We're not looking at anything over 10 lots.
Okay.
I would know that.
And really, the only thing that would deviate on those would be just the 30 versus 40,000 square foot.
Correct. And if they made applications through environmental health, you know, for that, then that's where the clock would start on that. Because a lot of times we don't really sit down and have a discussion with those. Some of those, they're not installing roads, they're accessing public right-of-ways that are already established, they're cutting out lots in there. But those are the ones, you know, the 4 or 5 lots that they're doing might be developments, or it might not fall under a major subdivision requirement too.
okay. Any other questions? Mr. Vogler, you seeing something there we need to,
We're pulling up the list for Richard.
well, here,
I didn't have
got
the
it.
list.
Okay.
I was trying to get a look at it.
Should be in this minute. Didn't everybody get this?
It's in your manager's report. Oh, okay.
Mr. Chairman, I think it might make sense to reference the list, but rather than putting Johnny on the spot, which we've done,
Yeah.
is ask him to scrub the list, get with Mr. Barnett, and then come up with the codified list, and we introduce that. I think that would be a better way to I don't know how we verbalize that, but that's
Yeah.
how I would like to.
I would greatly appreciate it, just to make sure that something's not left off. And then from that standpoint, we could have that and be more than happy to talk with developers and let you know that these are the only subdivisions, or anything else would be subject to the new requirements from that.
I have no problem with
That's
that.
fine.
I mean,
And then give me an opportunity to get with Mr. Lambert and the environmental health folks, just to make sure that, nothing had been, dropped or left off.
we're going to assume that the major acreage and units that are on this list are the ones you're dealing with. We're not, what you're going to add to this list are 4 or 5 acre, smaller. Am I
Yeah,
correct?
we can look at those, if you even need to know those, because a lot of those aren't going to be.
We don't need to know them. We just want to make sure, we got a 383 unit development there. We don't have a 383 unit development that somehow is not on that list.
Correct. And some of those are referenced, some of the town of Bermuda Run, or is it village or town, I'm not sure, but Bermuda Run as well as Moxville is on that list.
Well, and folks need to understand as we move forward here, we are addressing the county.
The county as a whole.
We do not address Mr. Rollins' kingdom or in terms of the town of Moxville, the town of Bermuda Run, the town of Coolamy. Development that is going on there is under the purview of their planning folks, their boards, and their leadership teams. So this is Davie County.
Davie County, yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Somebody brave enough to make a motion.
I make a motion that we adopt the ordinance change subject to the codification of the list.
That would be that.
Or
Yes.
provision of the final list.
And could we have that by the end of the week?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. All right. Okay. Is that motion, Mr. Vogel, is that motion adequate? Okay, we have a motion, do we have a second?
You're talking about the list, you're talking about the list that was provided to the county commissioners yesterday. And the
Over the
county commission,
weekend.
I mean, the
Yeah.
county managers.
Weekly update.
Yeah.
That way, that's included in that motion.
Have a motion, do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Any other discussion or questions?
I would just like to briefly say that the point that Mr. Renninger made was very valid. We've wrestled with the issue of affordable housing. It's not something that we take lightly, but I can't speak for everybody else, but for myself, I feel as if this notion of affordable housing is one that often gets thrown into the argument by the people that want to develop, and why you need to do this and why you need to do that, while you're chasing this notion that the developer's only going to build something they can have a margin where they can make anything on. So I think we're going to have to look at other ways. There are going to have to be things that are done in higher density areas, which is not out in the county. It's not, the utilities are not for that. It's also going to, or it's going to have to be something that's done creatively. So, we're not trying to close the door on that, but a lot of the rhetoric that surrounds affordable housing is just rhetoric, in my opinion, to open the door to further developing parcels.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Okay. All right. All in favor of the motion, uplifted hand. Okay. It's unanimous. Thank you,
guys.
Mr. Easter. Appreciate your patience.
And check that list.
Yes.
Check it twice.
Gonna find out.
Now to the, no other public hearings, to the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I make a motion to approve.
Do we have a second?
A second.
Mr. Reniger, all in favor?
Well, I do have
Oh,
a
I'm
question,
sorry.
though. I'm sorry. I do have a discussion, and I may have gotten this answer, but I didn't get it in time to read my email today if I did. I just want to clarify a couple things. The budget amendment to move the finances to the oil mitigation is just to cover the contract for the company that's going to be carrying that out, right?
Yes, ma'am. And I guess to jump ahead of you, I got a rather lengthy explanation for each one of those, and I didn't actually get a chance to read them all before I sent them to you, but I have that ready to give to you.
Okay. And then my other question, in regards to the movement for the HVAC issues at the jail, is that the total cost or was that an additional cost?
So that is, in essence, so we don't have to come back between now and June 30th if we get in there and find other issues that may come up once you start this particular project. I think with the age and condition of that jail, we're just being proactive that once you start tearing down and changing things, we're going to find something else.
Well, I mean, that makes sense. But the way that it reads, additional funds are needed for this capital project. So, but you're saying this includes the additional?
Yes, ma'am.
So this is the total at the moment that we're putting forth, this?
This is the
that
total
number.
budget you're setting
the
up
moment.
at the moment.
Okay.
If we get in there and it's worse, I hate to say we may have to ask for
Right.
more, but we're just trying, with it being so close to the end of the year, not having to come back to you again, I mean, it's probably still be a consent item, but just to go ahead and cover ourselves just in case we get in there and find more.
Okay. That's my
Good.
questions.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor? All right. County Manager's Report.
Mr. Chairman, you all have a copy of the March County Manager's Report sitting in front of you. The only thing else I would add, I have had an opportunity to talk to our speakers who come tonight, so we will continue that conversation with them moving forward. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Any old business? Any new business? Commissioners' comments. Richard, would you like to go first?
I'd just like to say thank you to all the folks that have come out tonight. Thank you to the people who came and spoke their pieces as far as their opinions go and impacts to their own neighborhoods. Lee, I'd like to welcome you back to Moxville, and I look forward to working with you. And thank you to all those people who have gone out and volunteered in western North Carolina to help make lives for those people there better. Thank you.
Terry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank everyone for coming out tonight on this dear evening. Mr. Rollins, welcome back. Good to see you. And wish everyone a happy Easter and come back next month. Thank you.
Brent.
I'd like to welcome Lee back to the area. Glad to have you. Like to appreciate everybody that came out. Appreciate everybody willing to listen to kind of that root canal exercise that we just went through. But it's pretty important. I'd like to thank Johnny for his leadership along with the planning board to kind of work through and come up with some proposals that, most importantly, these proposals look to make things a little more practical within the county. And it's kind of what the citizenry is asking us to do. And we don't ever need to lose sight of that this is not some agenda that one or two of us have. It's things that we found over and over and over when we've had meetings and comments and so forth. So, you know, it's got some warts, but this is steps in the right direction.
Ms. Benita?
Thank you all for coming out. I want to thank the ladies who have left, but for coming and sharing their concerns about what's going on in their neighborhood. Thank you all for being patient as we started late tonight, but we had a wonderful update from the Cooperative Extension and 4-H people about what they've done all this year, and heard some of the young people share their stories of the things that they've done. So that was that's always a blessing for us to get to have that time. Cameron, thank you again for your presentation and for gathering all of that information from all across the county, not just your office, so that we can get a true update as to what was going on during that time. And other than that, that's me.
Thank you, Ms. Benita. Thank you, everyone. Thanks, everyone, for being here. We are going to go into closed session, and I'm going to read the statute. Statute 143, 318.11A6, to consider the qualifications, competence, performance, character, fitness, conditions of appointment, or conditions of initial employment of an individual public officer or public officer or employee or prospective public officer or employee, or to hear or investigate a complaint, charge, or grievance by or against an individual public officer or employee. Do I have a motion to go into closed session? So moved. Mr. Poindexter, do I have a second?
Second.
Ms. Finney, all in favor? Okay, we're going into closed session. We'll be back here shortly. We good? Okay, all right. Do I have a motion to go back into open?
Motion to go back.
Mr. Poindexter made the motion, Ms. Finney second. All in favor? Okay. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right.
Second.
You got them. You got them, right, Karen? All in favor? All right, we're adjourned.
Thank y'all.